In today's chapter of East Haven County, we're mixing a detailed custom build with a ton of new developments. First, we're adding a Coast Guard and life-saving station to serve the busy waters around East Haven. Then we're selling off more lots for new office parks, investing in a much-needed infrastructure upgrade with a major new arterial road, and building affordable apartment complexes to combat high living costs and an influx of students. We're also implementing the results of our most recent votes by allowing the first skyscraper in over a decade to rise in downtown Chowder Bay. And I'll need your input once again as we're opening up a central location for a full revamp. So if you're excited about all these changes and enjoy my content, hit the like button and let's dive straight in. Now we're going to kickstart our custom Coast Guard / life-saving station with a bit of terraforming, as the terrain here on Nugget Island is just not, it's not very cooperative at the moment, and we need some flat terrain and some keys. Then we're moving straight into using one of the coolest custom assets I've seen in quite a while for Cities 2. It's going to be Harbormaster J's custom lifeboat station, which I've grabbed from Sully's Discord. And just look at this thing. I mean, I'm gonna use some custom boats as well. We're gonna color those red, and it's gonna tie the whole thing together. Now, a little disclaimer here. I didn't really seek out any real-life inspiration for this Coast Guard life-saving station, which is going to turn out to be either a genius or a foolish decision based on the final outcome. So feedback is very, very welcome. And if anything, I made the decision because it does allow for maybe a bit more creativity and flexibility as well for a really custom tailored solution here in East Haven. Like, that's my logic at least, but we'll see how it goes. So let's get a nice little detail added. Just want to try out a single boat with a red color scheme. I associate red with life-saving operations. I don't know if that's law appropriate in terms of US Coast Guard life-saving stuff, but it is here in Denmark, so we're just gonna give this a go. Let's just make sure that this is a nice, maybe slightly dark red, just like the actual life-saving station. Isn't that cool? Now, my next move is going to be slightly controversial with those of you who just prefer a city paint and not care about the economy, but I'm going to be placing some type of emergency service station that is going to be fully functional. We're not going to disable it to save money. I'm doing that to simulate the costs of having a Coast Guard or life-saving station, even though I'm pretty sure that's handled by the federal government. Whatever. I think this is a more fun playstyle, so I hope you can accept the compromise. I do like the French rural station. It is sufficiently generic, I think, in terms of architecture to be like an old life-saving station here, and I imagine life-saving would have been a theme in East Haven, given that it's a highly populated archipelago, for at least 100 years, maybe more. So we're getting displaced, and then I think we need some upgrades as well to kind of justify the large footprint in terms of like this very limited buildable space at least. Garage expansion, oh, we're definitely getting that one. Then we've got a rapid response garage. We could add to this side. There's the firefighter's dormitory. Oh, that goes on the other side. So let's get that added, close to the waterfront. Then we have the quick response depot, which is basically a warehouse down here. We're gonna add that as well. And I think that's it. I do prefer the slightly asymmetrical look of not having this addition as well. Then we're going to need some warehouses and some maintenance facilities. I imagine just some industrial looking generic stuff. I'm gonna use Ploppables here to hopefully make it all functional, because then it comes with a set of props and all that good stuff we want. It's gonna make it a lot easier to jump into the actual detailing. So let's just see the kind of stuff we have. I wouldn't mind just kind of replacing this and then making the roads align to it afterwards. So let's just make sure we get something like, I'm gonna try something fun with the roads here, I think. So I'm just gonna make sure that there's quite a bit of distance to the fire station. I mean, Coast Guard station, of course. Maybe this one as well. Yeah, let's have a small road in between. Maybe something fit on this side as well. There's a 2x5 here, which I imagine we can just about squeeze in like this. And then before I finalize the road layout, or get started with it rather, I might need like a long slender pier just kind of poking out to this basin here for what would be an actual like Coast Guard sized ship, because they can be pretty big. And obviously this isn't as much Coast Guard stuff as it's just like life-saving stuff. So let's do a bit of terraforming. So let's see, for the actual keys, I think we are going to utilize the good trusted narrow key with pedestrian path. That's been a hit ever since that was introduced. It has this really nice industrial look. Don't know how realistic it is to actually frame this with a... I mean, it has to be framed by a key, right? I feel like it has to. Let's just get a bit of snapping so I can get a 90-degree angle here. And then maybe move a bit inlands again, but otherwise we're just going to pretty much freeform a bit of this. We'll move to about here and then out. We're gonna add a bit of an angle just because we can. We'll need a bit of snapping as well, because I do want 2 parallel keys, of course. And we're not gonna make this, it doesn't have to be too thick, because the space is obviously still quite limited here. And then we're just gonna delete these 2 steps. We'll get rid of this segment and then frame in the wrist. And over here, we're going to just have a little key segment, I feel, maybe by this factory here or something like this. And then we're going to just transition that into, you know, some boulders, like a different type of key entirely. So I think something like this, maybe bringing this in to about here. Now, since these are props, I should probably transform lock them before I do any sort of terraforming here. Something like this, and then we'll of course need to upgrade this to a keyed segment throughout, and then we'll do the terraforming and just have a overall look at how it presents itself. But I think this is going to work just fine. Unfortunately, we really don't have a ship prop that could act like a proper Coast Guard vehicle. So I'm gonna add this the small cargo ship, and then if it's too out of place, we'll get it removed. I'm not sure if this is something the Coast Guard could have towed into this bay here in terms of like an inspection, or if their papers weren't in order, or yeah, I don't know. If you guys have like a fun narrative that could be surrounding this ship, or maybe even a name for it as well, then let me know. We'll add something fun then. Looking through some of the other props that follows with the lifeboat pack by Jay, I have not been ambitious enough at all in trying to construct this. So we're gonna give it another go so that the actual station sits on these piers before it attaches to the actual key. Alright, so with this new design in place, carefully managed with Move It, we're going to see if we can just align it to the actual station and move it out here to just give a bit of an additional look to it. We're just going to align it with the key here, although I think I'm going to change this key entirely because it's not going to sit the way it currently does, I think. Let's just bring it out here and see how this is going to work. In terms of the height, let's just drop it down so that we can still see like the visible supports here, because that is certainly like a really cool feature, I think. So maybe we can actually just continue utilizing the pier, and we'll just like elevate a road to it or do something. Let's see if I can grab. So the big prop here has to be like the ramp. Then we've got, I think this is going to be the boat, and this is obviously the actual station. Yes, I got all the right stuff now, so let's just get this moved out here. That is going to look freaking cool, if I might say so. And we'll obviously need to get just a bit of alignment on this guy here, slightly misaligned, something like this. Then just move it up so the railing becomes kind of pokes through and becomes obvious. And then oh, I gotta be careful with, I'm selecting the boat now. Great. We'll just move that out a bit and maybe elevate it a little bit, something like this. Now that is a really cool looking little asset. Now we've got some pretty fancy transformation tools that we can use, and I never used them, so yeah, we're gonna lower the step count to 1. I assume that, yeah, this is the increment, and then it has to be the x-axis to kind of give this a bit of a slope, right? Yes. Okay, so let's just try something. I needed to kind of connect into the land segment here. I wonder if this is actually gonna work due to the key walls. Like if that is actually that's pretty good. All right, we're doing just a bit more alignment just to get it a bit better, something like this. Not gonna touch this anymore. And then we can use move it to grab a few nodes here and just get the key wall configured a little nicer. To this actual structure. So I think something like this is just going to look better. And I gotta be careful getting it right at the very first try, because it's a pain to reselect these nodes. But I think this works. It all does look a little barren without a road layout, so let's just whip something up. We're going to use a mixture of the completely vanilla alley as well as the one-way alley. And the idea of separating these buildings with a bit of distance was to hopefully being able to use the parallel tool to bring 2 one-way alleys through this place. I'm not sure if okay, I do have the space to actually do 0.5 between them. So I'm just gonna see if I can get this aligned. It doesn't have much functional purpose. It is just to try and make it a little more interesting. And then we're just gonna grab a regular alley and just move, oh, not in parallel mode, we'll just move through here. And we'll get disconnected all up. Then I'm going to use my wide road builder alley, which I use in industrial areas to kind of front the fire station. And because I think it's going to be a little easier to bring in these 2 roads into this end node if it's a little wider. But it's only going to move down to about this place before it transitions into a small alley that is just going to move alongside this side of the fire station and bridge into the move into the actual life-saving station like this. And we're probably gonna use a bit of manipulation mode with move it in a few spots just to make sure that that these turns here are a little smoother. So if I hold down Alt, I can drag these without them moving all over the place like this. We're gonna try to add something interesting with a complex curve here. So if we click once right here and we make sure we get a connection and click again, then I should be able to move out here and hopefully connect this as well. Without crashing, mind you. Hopefully without crashing. That is, well, it's interesting. Now we're going to move underneath these active freight line tracks and connect to the existing industrial road. We'll obviously need to upgrade this stretch to an elevated segment, otherwise it's going to be functional, surprisingly, but it is going to look a little weird, so let's just make sure this is all elevated. The pillar here can just about fit, but this should be a node that I can move ever so slightly. Yes, so that the supporting pillar is actually out of harm's way. Now I do very little road detailing. I barely do any at all. So let's do just a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to find some form of pavement surface or like a road marking surface. And we're gonna pave that, or paint that rather, in between where we've got this empty lane. And even though this is UK inspired, I think it would be fun to add this yellow box junction marking. We'll obviously need to frame this with a single yellow line, so we're jumping into net lanes, road marking, and just grabbing something basic that we can move through with. Yeah, no wonder I don't do all that much road detailing anymore. Note to self, place the thick yellow line at first, because it's going to be a lot easier to just adjust the actual surface to the line you've placed down and not the other way around. So yeah, I guess through mistakes we all learn something. Well, at least I do. So we're going to bring out an alley here on the main pier, but that is primarily just so that we can have a few functional structures out here, a few small warehouses, and then a bit of parking. Probably going to cover this entire thing up with a surface and a lot of decals from the Real Vision pack to make it look nice, but let's get a bit more industry added. We're just gonna utilize one of the vanilla parking lots. It's fairly simple and it kind of slots nicely into place here, so no reason to really complicate that. Getting a little storage building added in here as well. And a few tanks over here. I don't know if this is how you store diesel for a facility like this, but we're going to imagine it is. As I was just sitting here trying to get an overview of what we've built thus far, I notice this girl taking flight. So this is a medical helicopter from Fort John General Hospital making her way to 91 Elissa Street, which is a family of 8 and 2 pets, no less. Frankie and Max, that is the most doggy name ever. Wow, that is one happy family. They have got a cozy house in the southern portion of Chester. Anyways, the point was that the helicopter made me think maybe we need a helipad for our Coast Guard life-saving station as well. So I'm gonna see if I can sneakily relocate this building to this plot of land right here. And surprisingly, that does seem to work. Not just functionally, but I also mean like aesthetically. And then with this empty space in place, let's see if we can find a helipad through the static Ploppables. We've got a couple of options, but the Urban Police Headquarters helipad looks to be the most generic version, and it's fairly simple as well. The alignment is a little funny, but this should mean we can kind of align it towards the Coast Guard station and then provide like a custom pathway. Basically a surface is what I'm trying to say. So let's just see if we can get it aligned to the key here. So that looks all right or nice, just like this. We'll of course need to grab it and get it elevated. I just need to check the stairs here, making sure I do this nicely. So about here is ground level, it seems. Then with better Bulldozer, let's get rid of well, at least one of these fences, this one, and a few trees. Grabbing our surface tool set, let's enable all the snapping and just make sure we can kind of bring this basic pavement surface all the way out here. Yoink. So that's a decent start, I think. Might as well grab this key here and just get that a little better aligned. Now, before you ask, then yes, I would love to place down a helicopter prop The only issue is that the engine or rotors are completely on fire when you place one of these props. Yeah, on fire, that's a weird choice of words given that it's a firefighting helicopter, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. It is running amok, and yeah, that's just gonna be annoying to look at. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to make do without. So before we move on to any type of detailing, I think we're going to get some of the more basic infrastructure in place out here. And one idea which I think could be cool would be to branch out from the main road here and then move underneath these two existing overpasses along this shallow coastline and then connect up maybe to Belmont Lane here, just to the main Coast Guard road layout. Before we do that though, I don't know why I haven't created like an extra freight line here for the freight lines. I think it's going to be a fairly simple operation. We're gonna give it a go, so we're just gonna grab these unelectrified double tracks. Then let's see, a continuous tool selection, maybe from this node right here. We're just gonna click once and see how this looks, trying to reach 90 degrees up here, which is I guess hereabouts. Clicking, and yeah, I mean, I guess that was it. Let's move on to the road. I love the little dance these fellas are doing as they're navigating a section of track that has recently been modified. That looks... We're gonna utilize continuous tool for this segment of road as well. Then I will be disabling all snapping and make sure we have ground and constant slope selected. And then for the final little tweak, we're going to show contour lines. Although I'm probably gonna have to use Move It to just adjust the height of this road, because as we're moving alongside the coastline down here, parts of it may actually go underwater, which we obviously don't want. So let's just branch out by this node where the two different road types meet. I guess we almost made it. Not quite. There's a few segments here on the water, but we have plenty of space in terms of like the headroom to the overpasses, so we can elevate this without much trouble. And I don't think we need to do any changes here except move this node a bit further inland, just so that the road here is completely clear of this concrete structure. Otherwise, I imagine it could be kind of shaky trying to navigate this place. Now this segment though, that's a little more tricky. I'm not quite sure how good this is gonna look if we just turn these two segments into elevated segments, but I guess it's worth a shot. I think it actually looks all right, although we would probably need a few more pillars to actually support this structure. Lots of helicopter action today, as this medical helicopter has spawned from St. Margaret Mercy Hospital all the way over in Mercy and is attending to Adam Velasquez at 114 Hillside Lane, which is all the way over here in Chestnut. So yeah, it's pretty expensive operating these emergency helicopters, but I mean, the geography here is just so complex. So, and the traffic is, I mean, you can kind of see just how heavy the traffic is along the main crossing here on Route 28. So you might just need a helicopter if you have an actual emergency. Okay, so I did plan to start detailing the Coast Guard life-saving station by about this point in time, but something's popped up which I think we need to put our attention to beforehand, and it's demand. Surprisingly, we have a ton of demand for high-density residential, as well as some proper office demand for once. Now, this all started in the most recent episode, of course, with the addition of nearly 10,000 jobs. This added a healthy boost to our otherwise sluggish economy. And we took a bit of a gamble by reducing taxes, creating some tax incentives for residential and office in particular, and it seems to be paying off. So I think we should do some actual city building. So let's take a slightly closer look at the characteristics actually driving this demand, because the curious thing with high-density residential is that it is essentially split in two zoning types. You have condo towers, which aren't really all that affordable, and then you have low rent housing, which also is squeezed into this general demand. I would like for the developers to actually split this up. I think that would be appropriate. Anyways, we see unoccupied buildings being something driving this demand. This is really nice, and it basically just means that in the past couple of episodes, the amount of available rental space, so vacancies, has dropped significantly. So there isn't a ton of available renting space left in East Haven. This will obviously drive demand. And this can be low rent and condo towers, essentially. But we also see a high cost of living and a high amount of students driving this demand. And this is probably specifically for low rent housing or affordable housing. So I'm assuming we have a bit of everything here. Now, as for the office demand, which I am so happy to see, it's a little more simple. We don't have a ton of vacancies. That is driving demand up, of course. And then we have a decent availability of high-skilled labor, because if we have a look at the East Haven County education system, elementary school capacity is always a bit on edge. That's entirely my fault. But any higher levels of education, you are pretty much just spoiled for choice at any of our institutions. There is plenty of space, plenty of capacity. Anyways, let's get on with some actual development, and I think we're actually going to start with some office development, because while this bar obviously isn't completely full, I would imagine it being relative to the size of the county, so I think there's probably quite a bit of demand here. And even with the addition of all the jobs recently, we're still hovering around 10% unemployment, so we need more jobs. Fortunately, my master plan of driving out all the residents of Pine Grove by increasing the pollution of the Nugget, I'm joking. I made a big mistake, I know, I'm an idiot. Anyways, we do have available land here to develop, so let's do just that. I think we do need a bit more dedicated parking though if we were to turn this weirdly sized lot into full-on office developments. So I may have an idea here to upgrade this regular alley to the perpendicular parking alley. So I'm gonna click this, but obviously I need the retaining wall because there's quite a bit of height difference in the terrain here. So let's just see, we'll enable Anarchy, otherwise it's probably not gonna play ball. Disable snapping so that we can align it, and then we're going to add a retaining wall to what I assume is the right side. Oh yes. Now let's just see if we can get this aligned perfectly. Yoink, that's not perfect at all, but fortunately we get another try. There we go. It's a decent start, but we can definitely squeeze in a bit more. So just grabbing the same alley, freeform. Let's just disable a retaining wall and just add another segment right here. And this is creating a bit of a complex mess at this intersection, but I don't mind. Complex messes are awfully realistic at times. I think we all know this, especially if you at times commute. Although this is looking, it might just look slightly too wonky, so I'm just gonna see if I can slightly adjust a few of the nodes here. We'll stick with this. And then at the other end of this lot, let's get a bit of parking in as well. We're going to enable a key immediately as we branch out from about... Oh, I have... Actually, let's just start by getting this connected up to this segment, and then we'll do the adjustment in just a second. So if I do something like this, it's going to look absolutely terrible. Unless I key up this side and do a bit of move it magic. I would say a lot of a lot of move it magic. Actually, that kind of just worked. So yeah, that was fairly simple, I guess. Although I would like to just align it a bit more down here. Well, I don't think I'm fully convinced we're gonna keep this parking lane, but let's get some buildings placed and then we'll see just how messy it is. Opening up Find It, moving into office buildings, we can go about 4 tiles deep, I would say. And maybe 4 tiles wide. And we've got some real generic stuff from the Chinese themed region pack right here, which might be a good fit. So maybe a tall guy here at the like the end of the stretch, and then a few additional ones. I think we've got 3 heights in total. I'm just gonna see how much this does for the skyline out here. Yeah, I think that kind of works. That is yeah, generic. I mean, that's actually pretty bad, isn't it? Let's get rid of this little lane here, and we can do a bit further adjustment. Yeah, this even allowed us to squeeze in another structure, and they have a pretty healthy amount of employees, at least for their like general size, which is nice. This should be a pretty healthy addition. I'm looking at our demand meter for office, and as I suspected, it's there's more demand here than what meets the eye in terms of this actual bar here, because I think it's relative to the size of whatever city you're playing, which on the flip side also means we have a ton of high density residential demand. We're gonna keep detailing super light here because we've got city building to do, and if there's an enemy of city building, it's detailing at least early on. So adding a few paths to just kind of seamlessly blend in with the surface textures of the buildings. They don't blend in at all, they're different textures. Not sure what I'm saying, but yeah, you get the general idea, I hope. And then we'll just add we'll be adding a bunch of trees to kind of cover up the mess back here. Oh, I caught another one. So this girl is going from, actually it's going to Fort John General Hospital, carrying Maxine Taylor, who lives at 9 Butler Lane. Where is that exactly? Oh, it's in the old town of Chowder Bay. Interesting. There is some sort of medical facility in Chowder Bay, right? Yes, there is. There is the Chowder Bay Medical Clinic. So I'm assuming, at least the narrative is that, and there is actually room. So what I'm assuming is that she needs more specialized treatment and she's being helicoptered to Fort John's. Let's jump on board for the trip. Why not? Maybe change the, can we change the lighting settings here just to make it a little more dramatic? I know I'm a nerd, but small trips like that just makes the city feel even more alive than it already is. And off it goes for the next patient. So this helicopter is like working 24/7, and we're going to 15 Pinehurst Lane. I have no idea where that is. Oh, it's all the way over in the suburban areas of Central Hills, so it's a part of West Point, which also has a medical clinic, by the way. But it's nice to see that the major hospitals, which obviously have more like specialized treatment options, are serving the entire county. And that's of course because I didn't region restrict Fort John General Hospital, nor did I region restrict St. Margaret Mercy Hospital, which also offers a lot of like specialized treatment. Anyways, sorry about that odd little segment. Let's get can we get just a bit more parking in here for these structures? Like, is it completely unrealistic to fit in like a parking garage maybe? Some type of like parking structure on this side of the road at the very least, maybe this one. I would like to add that. I know that in terms of like the rain, it's gonna be a little rough, but yeah, I think that works. Well, we certainly have plenty of office demand for more developments here in Pine Grove, but before we jump into developing anything, we're going to do a bit of an infrastructure shakeup because the ad-level crossing here alongside Cedar Street is mighty busy during rush hours. It isn't currently because technically it's late at night, but usually this is a complete mess. So we're gonna shake things up quite a bit by completely removing this at-grade crossing, and instead we're going to dig ourselves underneath the established train infrastructure here and connect up to this node. Now unfortunately, as you can probably guess, this requires more evictions, but by now I'm so accustomed to just evicting established level 5 wealthy families that it's feels like second nature, to be honest. I mean, I don't feel anything doing this. Like anything at all. Which is pretty sick. Anyways, let's get disconnected and let's not restrict ourselves too much in space. So we're gonna grab a 4-lane divided road. We'll grab the continuous tool, disable all snapping, and make sure we can lower the elevation in the smallest increments possible. And just branch out, creating a real messy intersection here, which is always a ton of fun. And let's just have a smooth decline all the way down to 7.5. Just like this. And we'll move real close to the train tracks here, just making sure we don't connect to them and create like weird nodes or weird issues. We can have this segment be pretty much straight and then connecting up to the crossing up here. And if I can avoid removing this commercial building, I will, because we don't have a ton of commercial demand. We haven't had that for quite a while, so let's just get this moved. Just a bit. Reminds me I may have to bump up public transit capacity here because, wow, that's a lot of people late in the evening, no less. Anyways, do I want retaining walls? I'm not sure I do. So we're just gonna rid ourselves of these and then maybe smoothen out the terrain a little bit. But of course, most importantly, we need to turn this into an elevated segment. And look at the size of this segment. So I would have to upgrade the entire thing. And that's the case here as well. And obviously I don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a small node on either side so that we can specifically choose just to elevate these new small segments, and then obviously we'll be getting rid of this mess. Then I'm going to grab this node, which is the lowest point of Myrtle Street, and I'm going to move that directly underneath the train tracks so that I have the smoothest possible incline and decline, well, I guess depending on what direction you're driving in. I hope that makes sense. Manipulation mode is really coming in handy for really complex crossings like this, so that we can just drag out the node and make sure that the whole intersection is just takes up more space, allows for better turning. We'll be doing the same over here, although these two roads, they're already kind of stretched, so I would be kind of encroaching on the parking lot of the esports center. So I think if we're to do anything, it's maybe bringing this back a little bit, as well as this small segment of Walnut Street. But as you can see, we're slowly moving into the parking space here. So maybe we're actually gonna do just that, because this looks super cool. And then with better Bulldozer, I should be able to maybe just get rid of, yeah, I can get rid of this sub-element here, which I think is worth it. So we're gonna do something like that. And if we're being super nerdy, I have to be careful here because I can end up removing too much stuff. I could adjust, oh, I gotta be careful now. I could adjust, I'm not gonna click anything. I would mess that up and all the surfaces would disappear. We're gonna keep this as is. We should be able to hit play again without any utility connectivity issues. Everything seems to be working fine. I think we're gonna keep the medium roundabout in place here because we're going to build an extension road just to make this large lot a little more usable, and probably also just provide a bit more parking. So let's have a look at this. We'll go freeform, maybe adding a key to the side that is facing the railway tracks, which would actually not be... Actually, it would be this side. And I apologize, there's another helicopter, which in-game is really loud, but I don't know how bad it is for you guys. So let's just get a long, bendy stretch of parking here. And I'm gonna adjust it in just a second, because it's obviously not perfect. We'll have a little cul-de-sac at the very end. We're going to do something like this, just to kind of utilize the space a little better. There we go. The cul-de-sac is probably overkill, but I don't always have the cul-de-sacs at the end of these parking lot roads, so just having it kind of mixes up the look of things. I figure this complex is going to be boring, well, architecturally boring at the very least, so I'm going to use this commercial building that has been repurposed into an office building. It's a mod I utilize, and we're just gonna get a ton of these placed. Yeah, it's gonna look so exciting. Just gonna make this like a massive structure. Make sure I align it all with Move It so that it looks like one single development. Hopefully I can without any pathing issues. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use better Bulldozer to get rid of a bunch of the signs that spawn on these buildings. I think that's just a nature of them being repurposed high-density commercial buildings, which obviously have a ton of signage on them. Don't want that for the office buildings here, so let's just get this aligned. Come on, I don't want any pathing issues. That is... oh, that looks so nice, doesn't it? Okay, let's get rid of all the signage of all of them and make sure we repaint them in the same color scheme. And I promise you'll find some super interesting cubicles here. I promise. I might even be able to do a segment alongside Myrtle Street that looks half decent. The elevation is going to be super wonky, but it's just to make sure this development is looks kind of complete. So something like this. I'm gonna get rid of the surfaces here, just add trees to kind of cover up the mess. Yes, that kind of works. Let's get rid of all this signage stuff that we don't want. Then moving into... oh, Better Bulldozer is still on the menu. Remove surfaces and spaces. Just gonna get rid of some of the stuff here that is trying to kind of connect to this road here. Actually, let's just get rid of the full surfaces of these buildings. And add some trees and bushes to the mix. Once again, keeping the detailing super light, so maybe like a small urban pocket park for your lunch needs and a bit of fresh air to get out of your cubicle. Then we could use these mini parks and just add them throughout. That is going to increase the land value quite a bit, but it's also just going to be the easiest way to add a slight bit of detailing to these lots here. And a bit of coverage from the busy train tracks, provided by some bushy stuff and a thin row of spruce trees. It also looks like the new Myrtle Street is more than able to keep up with all the needs we need for moving people in and out of Pine Grove. I think I want to commit to 2 small changes though. So first I need to check where we've got... actually, I don't need to check for a node, I'm gonna add it on my own. I'm just pausing quickly here. We're going to add a node here because I would like to upgrade this to a 3+2 configuration, moving into Pine Grove. So something like this. Yes, and then we'll get rid of this segment. And what we're gonna add the same down here, I think. Why not? So we'll add another node. Get the upgrade in place, this time moving into the intersection, providing the free lanes, of course. I did add a key site on either side, which I don't think I want, but we can get rid of that in just a second. Because what I do want is to disallow parking on this stretch and just get a wide median, because I also think that's going to play in pretty nicely with the 3+2 configuration. It's not a perfect transition, does look a little weird, but I don't want to use Road Builder to change that I'm trying to not have too many custom road builder roads because it's going to clutter up the road menus. So I think this works as a vanilla configuration. Now, we've seen some interesting fluctuations in our high-density residential demand while we've been building all these office developments. And one of the reasons is that there's been times where we had vacant apartments, basically. So whether that's due to the level up of existing buildings or just changing demographics or whatever, I don't know. But we still have some demand, so let's get some affordable housing built. And we have a nice sized plot of land right here, especially as I've just demolished a row of housing. So let's get some parking in place. I'll grab the one-way parking alley and maybe branch out from... Actually, we could make this fairly interesting. If we branch out from down here with the continuous tool here, we can add a bit of an interesting shape. Then we're going to downgrade it to the one lane alley, just so that we can make sure that the connection to the main road here isn't going to be weird or result in any parking being clipped, looking odd. But this works fairly well. We will just realign this house a little bit, and then let's go grab some appropriate housing. Now, it needs to be low rent, categorized within game to satisfy that type of demand, of course. But I don't want it to look like run down or super cheap. So something I like to do is move into the Eastern European pack, clicking the Ukrainian flag here, and then find some of the more fancy versions of these, because they don't look like they're like super run down. I think this one is a great example. I'm gonna see if I can find a building that is 3 tiles deep, and then one that is standalone, meaning that it has something on all 4 sides. So this one is not meant to be in a wall-to-wall configuration. So that's a good candidate. So let's just get a few added. I'll get 2 added on this side. And then we'll add some form of small park here. And then I'll get a cobble added on the other side here. Obviously, we've got some more space here, so we can get at least 4 of these in place. Yes, now the color scheme is a little wild, but this one is, it's not wild, it's fairly boring even. So I'm just going to make the roof a nice boring shade of gray. And we'll move through and color all of them like this. Then I'm just gonna add a few super simple pathways, surface, and some trees, and basically call it a day. We're going to grab the grass surface 01, use the area bucket tool. I am only going to be within, road net lanes, because as you can see, that allows me to fill up these areas perfectly. Then we're just gonna make sure we've got like a big stretch we can fill out, although that didn't really matter all that much because they are of course confined within the paths we've now added. Something like this and something like this. Yoink. I'm being a little sloppy here, but it's a lot quicker to just use this tool. And then we're just gonna add a ton of trees to this segment out here to kind of shield it from Myrtle Street and kind of mark the separation between Riverview Heights and Pine Grove. So I think I'm gonna do a slight district change as well, so that this office block is a part of Pine Grove and not Riverview Heights. I think it makes sense to just change the borders of these neighborhoods a little bit now that Myrtle Street is like the main arterial moving through. So checking up on this new development, people are actually moving in. Many of the households are starting to slowly fill out. We are seeing a bit of a population drop, but that is just because of an overall death wave that we're encountering currently. So I think this will stabilize, and I'm hopeful that we now have enough housing to bring us beyond 130k residents, which would be really cool. Now, we obviously still have quite a bit of office demand, so in that sense, it's pretty fortunate that you guys voted overwhelmingly yes in our recent community vote to allow a developer to buy out Neckbeard Mike's Comics here on 43 Maple Street and replacing it with a shiny modern skyscraper. Now, this is actually a pretty exciting development because this is going to be the first new skyscraper added to Chowder Bay in 14 years, where 60 Manor Street has dominated the skyline. And if you're worried about the future or prospects of Neckbeard Mike, who's had this comic shop, this local institution for nearly 30 years, don't worry. When they showed up with enough dollars, he was fine with selling the lot and cashing in on his pension. So if we move out here to Mill Crest, I noticed that the 11 Strawberry Lane mansion with a pretty awesome location has recently changed hands. And oh look, it's Mike Neckbeard Fields with his family living in this mansion now, so I think Mike's gonna be alright. In fact, Mike has taken a basic part-time employment at Chester Elementary School, way out in Chester. So yeah, let's just add Mike. Let's follow Mike and see how life treats him. I don't know why it says poor. I think this is because Mike is very clever with his tax papers, but he's not poor. Anyways, let's get the game paused and this slightly old, shabby, low-density commercial building demolished and replaced with this mass of steel and glass. Plop! Whether the slightly weird locals here in Chowder Bay like it or not, the city is definitely moving into the future. Just look how... Wait, what? Oh my... Aw, come on! It's already been vandalized. Oh man, that is ugly. Oh well, some extra upkeep, I guess, for the tenants. Anyways, if you don't want to miss out on community posts or specific polls like the one we just did, make sure to enable notifications. Moving on, we're going to postpone the detailing session no more. So let's add some surfaces, some decals, some trees, and maybe even give Nugget Island on its own a bit of a refresher. I think we'll be saving the Nugget Island revamp for a different episode, otherwise this one is just going to spiral completely out of control. And if I know my audience right, that would be all of you, you probably have some nice suggestions for what we could actually do with this place. Now, I don't want to relocate the incineration plant because that is just a prime feature out here, but other than that, I'm pretty open with how we actually change this up. In terms of detailing, I tried to keep things pretty light. There's a ton of decals and surfaces, obviously, but there's not a huge amount of like props or custom props at play here. Pretty much letting the existing buildings kind of carry the brunt of the work, and I think it works out fairly well. I don't want to over detail areas because they're going to stick out like a sore thumb, and it is probably going to have adverse effects on performance down the line. But that's gonna be a wrap. I am looking forward to suggestions on the revamp of Nugget Island, and then I am still very open to suggestions for what we should actually place here on this prime piece of land right next to an inlet and plenty of nature. So as always, thank you guys so much for all the feedback, for all the suggestions, all the likes, and just all the support. I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.